Hello and welcome to today's episode, today's podcast. Better every day with Thea. I'm super excited, y'all. If I tell y'all, this morning has been so interesting, but I am so grateful because I finally get to. I've been talking about interviewing this young lady for a minute. I've changed platforms. I've changed a lot, but my mindset to interview this beauty has always been in the forefront. And so I'm super excited that today I get to host her on the Better Everyday podcast. And this is a podcast where we have chosen to give voice and share rich experience through love and laughter and help you navigate this life of yours. And so making your life better every day. So, without further ado, I'm going to take a moment to read the bio. Although, I have my own way I'd love to introduce, and I'll do that after, but read the bio of my esteemed guest today, Iriel Laurel Holmes. Welcome to Better Every Day with Thea. Iriel is an amazing transformation coach. She's a certified transformative clarity coach, author, mentor, and facilitator of the three principles. She's dedicated her life to assisting those she works with in achieving a profound sense of relief from the mental suffering they've had. They've experienced, whether childhood or just in life, by believing the negative stories that have been told to them that were never true. A sustainable shift in the way that they have experienced life has led them to higher performance in their careers, a deeper connection and satisfaction with their loved ones, and ease dealing with uncomfortable situations. You can learn more about Ariel by going to our website at Ariel, Lord have mercy, I'm losing it. But the website is laurelholmes.com, and Ariel is my guest today. Thank you so much for joining us on the Better Everyday podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Thea. I'm so glad to be with you today. Sorry for all the little hiccups we had along the way, but I'm
Oh,
glad to be
no.
here.
No, you know what? Before I said to you off show, sometimes these hiccups are indication not to do it. But then I thought about it as you kept saying, no, let's go, let's go. I was like, but then sometimes these hiccups are really an indication that what's going to come out of this is profound. So I'm really excited. I'd like to just kind of introduce how we met first before we get started. And to be honest, I can't. It was Michael Gebbins, that's who it was, that introduced me to a particular Facebook group. And as I
Yeah.
got into this group, I was like, oh, wow, this group seems very loving and very interesting. And this group is not like normal groups. And you stood out. And I was at a very um, interesting time in my life. I was at I'm going to say a fork in the road, a pivotal moment. Some people will call it a low place, but I believe it was the exact place I needed to be because I met you.
Yes.
And yeah, and you reached out on in that particular group, and you offered me an opportunity to read the book that group was created about. And this
Yeah.
was a book about a topic called being, right? Um, but you went a step further and you jumped on a Zoom with me because you saw I was an emergency case.
Yes.
Yes, and you did what you do. And so to get
Mm.
started, let's just kind of talk about how we met in that group, the being group. Like, what, first of all, how did you end up there? And then what does like being mean to you? And then we'll kind of segue into however you lead this.
Thank you for that question because I think it is something that people struggle understanding. from the outside, people that are either not in the group or might have a different understanding of what it means to be. So for me, being is a spiritual essence of who we are. It's
Mhm.
the ground that we walk on. It's the glasses that we view life with. It's the how we show up moment to moment in our daily. Oops, I just dropped myself. Sorry about that.
That's
In my
okay.
daily life, I'm always going to be different moment to moment. There may be moments when I'm showing up really happy, and there may be moments when I'm showing up sad
Mhm.
or upset about something. So being is something that it's within you. It's not something that you can change like your clothes. It is you.
Mhm.
It is the of you showing up in the moment. And people think that they can change how they be. And that's impossible. It's like you can't change something that's invisible. You
Wow.
can look like you're changing it, but in essence, you are always being exactly where you're at every moment. And you cannot like it at moments when things aren't going as well as you'd like. And you can like it in moments when things are going peachy keen, but you can't change it. You can only be. And so to me, when people are looking at how do they want to be, because that's a question that shows up in that group a lot.
Mm.
That is a question I totally disagree with, by the way,
Mm.
because you can't want to be something because you already are.
Um,
How do you want to be it when you already are? That's like going into a future that doesn't ever happen and doesn't even exist. Only the moment does. So you can only be what's happening right now. You can project as I want to be a kinder person. I want to be a more loving person. I want to be a more successful person or profitable person or whatever you want to put in there. But in every moment that you're showing up, that's how you're being.
mm.
So, does the wanting influence the being?
Oh. Now that's an interesting question. It's kind of like what comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Right.
And I mean, and in
But
your
see, this is how I see it.
hmm
You already are those things that you want to be. Like if you want to say, I want to be a kinder person, well, if you already are kind, how can you be kinder? If you already are loving, how can you be more loving? It's who you are at
and
your core.
and and who you choose to be.
Now, see, choose is an interesting word.
Okay, help me with that because that's
Okay,
where
because again, choose is like it's not already there.
mm, oh,
See, if you already are, what are you choosing?
okay. So when it okay, so based on what like based on how this is presented, because being is in a moment, but let's say in this very moment, a person identifies with their being as someone who does not have X, Y, and Z. Like if they're a person who wants $5,000 and they don't have it, then they identify with a state of lack in their being. So how do they change from that being to the being of a person who has the $5,000? That's the
Well, because they're buying into a belief about themselves that says, I can't have $5,000.
mm-hmm.
So if everything you're doing is attached to the not having, what do you think you're going to create?
The not. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Okay, so when you're talking to your clients in transformation, and this is the core of what they're coming with a you know a space of they're wanting to move from the person that they perceive they are to the person that they perceive that they want to be. You're saying you're already it, everything. And in reality, everything that you need, it is already in you. Like inherently, that is absolutely, you're not missing anything for anything that you desire. What is the missing link though? Why doesn't a person know that?
That's a very good question. And I'll tell you what it is. It's really simple, but not everybody sees it. So, in order for something to continue to show up the way it shows up, you have to believe it's true. And now that might sound very simplistic, but it's actually at the core of all childhood trauma misunderstandings. So if you have a core belief, for instance, is that I'm not good enough, no amount of money is going to ever change that belief, is it?
No.
So it isn't about money, isn't about career, isn't even about relationships. Because in those relationships and the money and everything else, you're still coming from, I'm not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Because you made that true. If your core belief is I'm not lovable, then every relationship is going to be seen through the eyes of lack. Nobody loves me. I'm not good enough. Da, 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 da. So if that's your core belief, that's your operating principle, that's what keeps showing up. So that's going to get in the way of having $5,000, because that's what's blocking the flow, the energy, because money's energy, everything is energy, and you're either attracting that energy or you're dispelling that energy. You're bringing it to you because you're in a flow state or you're in a repel state. I don't deserve it. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. Blah, 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 whatever that is. And so that's going to you're going to keep manifesting that. So you can't change it like your clothing. Oh, I'll just have I'll just see it differently. It doesn't work that way. People think, oh, I can just change that. No, you cannot. Not if it's something you think is true. It's not going to change. It's only when you get to see that you were the one that made it up in the first place and that it was never true, that it changes automatically. Isn't something that you've got any control over. It just is something that naturally occurs when you stop blocking it.
Mm. So if every okay, and I'm glad you brought up the childhood trauma piece of it, because I believe um it's not just childhood. I think it's generational. I think we as a world um are currently locked into a system of trauma through all of the things that have been happening, whether it is, what's happened in the US, through, coming to this land, acquiring it the way it was acquired, bringing in the things that happen, all of the the history has built to a space where I think we're all in a bit of trauma. We're all in a space of, you know, w- you know, whether it's world news where we believe we're at war and we want peace, whether it's racial news where we believe there's racial injustice and we want equality because there's inequality. All of these things come into this same line. If you think about it, it's all in this same line. Where does this, like, how do we begin to take paradigm shifts individually? Because everybody may not be able to get to you, everybody may not be able to get to me, everybody may not be able to get to the people who have answer, but they may be listening to this podcast. What are some things that we can do to start creating some paradigm shifts in our thinking so that we can, you know, for lack of a better way of saying it, have heaven on earth? Have a better way.
Well, that's a good question. And the thing is that most people react to the outside world as if the outside world is making them feel a certain way,
Hmm.
right? This
Right.
happened, so I feel like this. This person did this to this person, so I feel like this. You said this to me, so I feel like that. But that's not the way that it works. It
Mm,
works from the inside out, not from the outside in. We are
mhm.
only ever reacting to our own thoughts. That's all that's ever happening.
Yeah.
You're always reacting within yourself. Your feelings are a reflection of that thought in the moment. So you are never, and I underline the word never, ever reacting to what you think you're reacting to. You are always and forever reacting to what's going on inside your mind. Your mind is informing you of what's going on in the outside world. And the mind, like a computer, just stores information. And that information over time can get disrupted and also be inaccurate. Have you ever had a thought that went through your mind that you realized was total silliness that didn't make any sense?
Absolutely.
Right? So it's not even something that you can count on. And yet, what do you listen to? You listen to the negative chatter. You listen to the voice that tells you ridiculous things, and there you are going and believing it. Why? Because it's happening inside you. So you think it must be true then?
Mm,
But who said it was true? Only you did. But it didn't make it true. I told myself I'd never be a writer. I believed that nonsense until I went to coach training school and one day challenged the whole idea. Who said I couldn't write a book? I wrote a book. So there's a lot of nonsense that that our
hmm.
thoughts tell us all the
So,
time that we believe. We believe thoughts like I'm not good enough. Where did that come from? I'm not lovable. Where did that come from? Just because you had an incident when you were a kid or in high school or somebody said something to you that was mean, that you decided that meant that you weren't lovable? Isn't that kind of ridiculous when you look at your entire life and you base it on one or two incidents that happened as if that was the whole culmination of who you are because of what somebody else said or did, that has something to do with you? What if it didn't have anything to do with you? It never did. Because anything anybody else is doing is coming from their thinking, their beliefs, their understanding. They aren't seeing you. They only see you through the filter of their own thoughts. They don't know you. They will never know you. No one will ever know you. And here's the irony, you don't even know you.
I was about to say, because in most cases, you don't even know you.
So if you don't know you, how can anybody else know you?
But I love what you said there, because and I want to put a pin in it and let and kind of magnify it for those who are listening. When you describe that, like, no one knows you, and when they're talking to you, even your parents, everything that they're saying to you is through their lens, based on their knowledge at that time, based on their level of maturity, based on their circumstances. And so everything that has happened, and that has been given to you, you do have the right to challenge it, if it's not in agreement with who you are, and you don't have to feel bad about
Now,
that.
you don't have to be affected by that.
Yes, because and this is, I was talking to someone the other day, and we get into this conversation about right and wrong. But technically, right and wrong, is just like beauty. It's in the eye of the beholder. It's literally based on an individual's belief, because
Exactly.
there are places in this world that you can go, that you can not say damn. You say damn, you going to jail. You understand? Well, here it's not. It's just a word. Who's right?
I didn't catch that last bit. Sorry.
I said, who's right? Here
Well,
there is
here's the
no right.
interesting thing about right.
That's
Let's
what I'm
talk
saying.
right wrong for a minute, okay? So right and wrong is totally made up, right?
Yep.
Your idea of right and somebody else's idea of right aren't the same, but who says that your right isn't right and their right isn't right? Because from their perspective, that's exactly what you said. That's how they're seeing it in that moment. But that doesn't make either of you right. It just means that that's your perspective. I like to look at right and wrong as kind of like opinions. You have an opinion about something. My sister is very opinionated about things and wanting to be right. And she even admits that I'm mostly right all the time. Okay. If that's what's interesting to you, go right ahead. So I don't care about being right or wrong anymore because I know that it's total BS anyway. It's just a perspective in the moment that you're seeing something and that's how it looks. Now, are we talking about facts? That's a little different. If
Absolutely.
you're talking about something that can be proven, for instance, as true, like air and gravity and the way the earth moves around the sun, or even the shape of the earth, those are things that have been, let's say, scientifically proven to be true. So nobody is going to go around and argue that. Those are what I call absolute truths. Okay. Things that
Right.
we can look in nature for absolute truths because they usually occur there. But we
Right.
can't look in, what one warring country thinks and another warring country thinks and try to figure out who's right.
Absolutely. Or
So that's an example where right doesn't make sense. That people go to war and say, well, God's on my side. Well, God's on the other side too. So where's the right? There isn't any.
absolutely.
So that's the
No.
made up part of it. So, when you're talking about things that are solid and factual, there might be proof to that called, okay, nobody can argue with that. But anything else is up for grabs. So that's why I don't have arguments
And
like
why
that
are we
anymore.
Right, and that's what I was about to say. And why are we even, what I'm recognizing is there is no argument anymore. Really, what it's about is finding your tribe, finding people who believe like you, who want to live like you, where you're not trying to convince anybody to come over to your side. Just be with those who are already there. Just be with those who do and have and think, instead of condemning someone because they don't. Because unfortunately, I believe that's what we're doing. We want everything to be all or none.
Yeah.
There is no all or none. It's what's right for me versus what's right for you. And those could be two different things. And so I love that, because um I believe that's one of the biggest things. When you talk about transforming lives, I believe part of the problem is that we're all wanting to, or we're all in our minds believing that we have to conform to a particular way of life in order to be deemed successful, in order to be deemed doing the right thing. So go to school, get a job, make money, live in a good place. And for a lot of us, it's really a conflict of interest, and we're suffering trying to be someone we're not. And so by the time we come to you, a transformative coach, half the time identity is missing. Would you say?
Can you repeat that last bit?
I said by the time a person comes to you, their identity is missing. Would you say?
Let's talk about identity for a minute, because I think that's a very interesting topic. Might take longer than this time that you have today, but basically, you created your identity when you were a baby.
Mm,
Okay, that identity was formed within the context of the family that you grew up in. The things that you decided about yourself must be true because of blah, 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 right? But what is a child known for? Their imagination. They are extremely imaginative, right?
mm, yeah.
And so if something happens to you, you're going to say, well, if that's what's going on, then this is what that must mean. That's how your identity gets formed. But here's the thing, that isn't who you are.
Yeah.
That isn't your spiritual self. That's just this identity that you created while you're in this form. And see, that identity can change, not because you're changing it, but because through insights, transformative conversations, you get to see what you took on that was total nonsense. If I talk to somebody, this is really interesting, and we'll get back to them as a 3-year old, a 2-year old. And at that age, they decided something really big. And I say to them, how old are you right now? I'm 45. So let me get this straight. You have been believing something that your 3-year-old self told you as truth all this time?
Mm,
What part of doesn't that look ridiculous ever occur to you? That you're still thinking that way at 45? Doesn't that make you go, how is that possible? Because you took that on as truth. That's why. And if it's true, then you are obligated to continue that story forever.
wow. So, knowing what we know now, like, I mean, well, I'm not gonna say my age, but I'm mature. And knowing that I've been living or existing based on beliefs and things that were placed on me as a child and coming to a place of acknowledging that and work.
Let's change. Hold on a second. When you said placed on me, it
Mhm,
was never placed on you.
mhm.
It was never placed on you. You were the one that did the placing.
Correct. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And you know what? You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Because I realized for me, my programming came at birth because I was given up for adoption immediately after birth. And so not being able to bond with my birth mother, not being able to bond with anybody at that time. As a baby, I created a story.
Yeah. Which is, I'm not lovable. I'm not wanted. I got it. I think you and I
Yeah,
already had that
we
conversation,
did.
right?
Absolutely. And but who the real issue is, n- no one knew that. Like no one's talking about these type of things in places like schools, like in with teachers and schools that can help kids, or even talking to parents to help kids that are in these situations or whatever, to so that you don't have to go lifetimes without realizing how to truly think about this life, how to truly live it, how to truly um look at life and reframe the story and look at how you're looking at life. So in your opinion, because I mean you're working with the adults, but how do you
Now I'm working with the children
oh,
in
now
the
you're
adult.
working with the children. Oh,
I'm
see?
working with the children inside the adult
See?
because I have to talk to that child that innocently made that up, that you decided that was true. But see, that's where the story begins. Because without the rest of the information about why you were given up, why your mother wasn't there for you, you assumed something. You made it mean something about you. But you're a spiritual, gorgeous being having a human experience. And that just happened to be the way that you were brought into this world to give your gifts to others.
Absolutely.
And so by believing that you were unworthy, unlovable, unwanted, that was what you were bound to create in your life to keep proving its truth.
Absolutely.
You had no choice in that because you created it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But if you had known from the get-go, from birth on, what a magnificent, truly amazingly beautiful human being you are, then you would have taken that as a gift instead of a burden.
Mm. And now coming to that realization as an adult, I now take that information and I recognize the true gift in it. That's what you're saying, in the
Yes.
being part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the thing is, we didn't come with an instruction book. We didn't come with a how do you be human right. We didn't come with a I'm feeling this way, so this must mean something's wrong with me. Because that's how it looks, right?
Mhm.
That's our perceptive reality. If we're feeling it, it must be right. No, you're just feeling it. It doesn't mean anything. It just means that's what you're feeling in the moment. That's the ground of being that you're coming from in that moment, is how it looks. But does it make it true? No. It just means that's how it feels. And does the feeling mean it's true? No. That just means that's how your meaning that it feels. So the more we add to what's actually going on, the more we suffer.
Because okay, you're reminding me of a conversation that I had with someone who said, we label our emotions. Like something happens and you say, I'm mad. Well, how do you know that? How do you know if that's really
Exactly.
mad? Like,
You want to hear a funny story? I did a coaching conversation with a guy like on Zoom, and he was having trouble with relationships. And he was holding his heart at one point because I was doing a laser session with him in front of everybody. And he was talking about the feeling that he had with a girlfriend that he loved, and she was going away. And he described this feeling to me, very specific, right? So then I asked him, well, what does the feeling of joy and love and all this, the exact opposite of what he was just describing? You know what was really interesting? It was exactly the same feeling.
exactly.
Because if you look at it from an energetic standpoint instead of a word standpoint, then your body is just expressing itself.
Itself.
That's it. We make up mad, glad, happy, sad, blah, 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 blah. It's just energy that's going through our body or through our system in the moment. When I was grieving for my brother who died in March, I was overcome with grief. I couldn't stop that from happening any more than I could stop a train from going over me if I was on the train track, right?
But you labeled it grief, but was it really grief?
I was allowing isn't even the right term. I was just being with whatever was coming through my body in that moment. My body was grieving. And so I was experiencing that. But what was creating that experience was the thinking that I was having in the moment about my brother. That's what
Mm.
brought the emotion up. You see?
Mm. And would you say, would you actually label it grieving?
Well, grieving is a term that everybody can understand.
Right. But what we're talking
I was
about,
just experiencing what I was
there
experiencing.
you go. And but that's the part I think that's important though,
Yeah.
because everybody labels something
Right.
doesn't necessarily mean that that's what it is.
No. But what
No.
a language is made up. How
Right.
far back was language created? How far back were words and their meanings created?
But that's really important though, because if we only attach negative words to the emotion, then you don't even give it a chance because it might not be a negative emotion. It's just
No,
emotion.
I didn't feel um and it's hard to use words to describe something like this because you're
Yeah.
bound to use a word because that's what we do.
Right.
So the thing is, when you're in the process of whatever you're experiencing, let's say, whatever that emotion is that's coming through you, the only way that you can understand it, because the intellect wants to understand everything, it likes to compartmentalize everything. It says, oh, I'm making this up, so it's going to be like super simple. Oh, I'm crying, therefore I must be sad. But there are many times when people cry when they're happy, right? So is the feeling representative of the thought all the time? Like you're having an emotion and you're having a thought and they're happening at the same time and your body is expressing itself. And after that, we make up what it all was. Because when you're in the moment of it, and this is a crucial part of it, when you're in the moment of it, you aren't aware of any of that. It's only after that that you give it a meaning or a name or try to explain it. But while you're going through it, you're just going through it. You are just being whatever it is that's showing up in that moment. And if we
And
could be neutral with our experience, meaning not attach all kinds of meaning to it, then that feeling would just pass. It would just come and go, just like the weather goes back and forth, sunny to not sunny to raining to whatever. And that's what's happening all the time inside your mind. It's always going through. Only when you stop it and go, oh, wait a minute, that was significant. Oh my God, that was heavy. Oh, I feel so bad for feeling that way, yada, yada, yada. And it just keeps going like that because you're now making something out of something that was just, like the weather passing through.
I love that because I think that's going to be very important for us in this lifetime. I think it's important for us to recognize energy. It's energy, and if we can begin to not judge ourselves so much, if we can begin to really love and accept ourselves and recognize and just let things flow through, like you say, let them flow and not have to have, not have to be right, not have to have then things will be a lot better, and you can begin to be the being that you were designed to be. Yeah, that was a lot to say, but true.
Right. And so when you go back to your original question, who do I want to be? That's why I said it becomes a natural occurrence when all that other baloney just drops away.
Yeah, because then you just be. You
Yeah,
just be.
I am a kinder person in myself when I don't have a lot of judgmental thinking about, oh, I'm not being very kind right now. So the more negativity I throw on my behavior, the less I'm going to experience being kind or being loving or being whatever, because it's the judgment. And you're so right when you use that word. It's the judgment that we have on ourselves and others that get in the way of just being naturally who we are.
Absolutely. And coming to a place where it's just simply, you know, a question of instead of judging a person, if it's not a right situation for you, it's just not a right situation for you. You just don't, if it didn't feel right, it just didn't feel right. You don't have to go into detail. It just wasn't, and then you can be more fluid in your activity. You can start moving and being more free flowing, and you're not so uptight. You're not so, you can live better every
Yeah.
day. Like every
Yeah.
day you can feel better because ever since the day that we talked the first time, and then we know we had another emergency session, but but the first time was the icebreaker for me because you gave me space to be in a loving environment that wasn't judgmental,
Hmm.
but was still holding me accountable to the thoughts and the things that were happening, but not in a way that made me feel bad about it.
Hmm.
And I and unfortunately in this world, we've it's been rough. It's been rough. It's been a lot of and we can label it, I'm not trying to but it's been rough. It's been a lot of anger, a lot of harsh words and things like that. And now I believe we're coming to a space where we really are starting to recognize, especially across platforms, that love is what the answer is, and being who you are and letting go of all of the stuff that you made up
Yeah.
and
But,
recognizing that
the first
you
person you
are
have to love is yourself, right?
yourself. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And you have to come to terms with you, because
Yeah.
that's where it starts. A lot of times and most of it is training. We're trained to look outside of ourselves for everything, but everything is really inside.
It's
And
all
it's
inside.
all of every
Our
every
entire universe is inside.
everything. You wouldn't even be able to see something in someone else if it wasn't in you first,
That's the whole point. That's the whole point. It doesn't matter what the fact that you're a black woman and I'm a white woman, because
right?
we are exactly the same on the
Yeah,
inside. And people don't see that. They only see what's out in front of them. They don't look to the truth that's already available inside them. And that's where
yeah,
the judgments come in. That's where the misunderstandings come in. That's where the I grew up this way and therefore that's how I think and that's how it is and that's that. But it's not necessarily where the truth lies, though.
yeah. I'm as you were talking, I'm hearing the Michael Jackson song. I'm starting with the man in the mirror.
Man in
That's
the
where
mirror.
it's where it all
Yeah, that's
starts.
right.
It's where your perception of life, your perception of others, your perception, everything starts with how you perceive you. And until you can get a better vision of like how Ariel said, Lord have mercy. You know what? I have a cousin and her name is Ariel with an A. And so
It's now it's I real, like I, and
Iriel.
real.
See, and I want to. Okay, so Iriel. I've been saying it wrong the whole time. You didn't,
Because it doesn't matter. That's why.
well, you know what? Now that's a perfect example. A perfect example of the the real humility and kindness that you have. Because I've talked to you, I don't know how many times, and I never say your name right, and you have never once said anything, or I mean even appeared that it was coming off my lips. Like I can't even see it in your face that it's coming off my lips wrong. And that's huge because that shows that, like, you're so, rock solid and that it don't even matter. Like, and that's where I think when and you're being who you are, you don't care because you know your name. Like, so what do you have to
Listen, it's a
argue?
made up name anyway. And I made up how I pronounce it. So
Now see,
I real is
I'm
the
done.
character
You
in
and
my
you're
book.
absolutely right.
What was that?
No, I say you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Oh
Oh,
my goodness. But that's true because like you said, you decide how you pronounce your name. There are other people with the same spelling. They pronounce it the way they want to spell. Who's right?
exactly.
There's no right. This is how you do you, I do me, and we're all happy. And I love it. Iriel, oh my gosh. I cannot believe, first of all, that we have been going at this as long as we have. This conversation has been so natural,
Mhm.
that the time has flown by. But I don't want us to run out of time before we, kind of jump into what you have, what projects you have coming, or what's happening on your end. And I know that I saw in one of your posts that you have an experience, a treehouse experience that you're now introducing. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So tomorrow I leave where I live here and I'm going to spend 3 nights up in a tree house in Goldendale, Washington State. Hopefully in the trees. We'll see. Hopefully there's some trees there after all the devastation of forest fires in that area. But the thing is, I was hoping that I was going to bring somebody up there with me. I'm a coach and I wanted to have a retreat, and nobody took me up on the offer. So I'm going to do it for with myself because I've already paid for it. So hey, I've got 3 days. I'm going to take those 3 days
Yeah.
and give myself a spiritual immersion for one, and feed myself yummy food and sleep under the tree in the trees, and just have a good time. So yes, I do retreats. That's one of the things that I offer. I do be with a 2 hour, really in depth, let's find out what it is that's your core belief that's been running your life through you since you were a child, that's gotten in your way. I run group webinars and retreats online, so I do a lot of different things. But first and foremost, I really love having conversations, and I have committed to talking to 6,000 people in the TUC group. And
Wow.
so far, my booking has gone off the charts with people trying to get in to talk to me. So it'll be
Wow.
interesting to see where it all goes.
Wow. Well, I know that you're an action taker. And that's the part that I absolutely love. And you're creating massive action. You're changing lives, and that can't, I mean, creating that kind of momentum and that kind of wave is gotta, I mean, something's gonna, I'm just waiting for you to get on there and tell us what it, I mean, because there have been some really good things happening for you, but I'm just waiting on the enchilada, the thing that just lights you to the, and you like, guys, it didn't because that's the thing. Life is built up of moments of service, of moments of get, and you serve at a high level, and because it's who you are. Without, it's like it's your give, and with that, you've got to get back, and it may not. And what I love is that it may not come from the people that but it's coming, and you're constantly building towards that, and that's very inspiring. I wanted to say that to you.
Why, thank you. That was beautiful. I didn't expect that from you, but I do truly appreciate hearing that from you.
Oh,
Thank you.
absolutely. I'm
And
I'm
by the
paying.
way, I don't care that this is public. I absolutely adore you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh my gosh. You pulled me off a ledge, and you were there for that, and I really appreciate that. And so we're connected,
Well,
for sure.
you have talk about a leopard spot change, and anybody wants to know more about that, they can just ping me. But you had one of those after our conversation because
Yeah.
you were on the floor, if I recall. And
Yes.
when I saw you a couple days later, I was like, who is this woman? It's like a totally transformed woman.
Yeah.
And then I gave you the book and you just took off, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm so proud of you
Thank
for what
you.
you have accomplished. I don't even know how long it's been. It's been only a few months since we got to know each other, I think.
That's what I was
And
about
you're
to
doing
say.
podcasts, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Who are you? So, ditto, ditto, ditto.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I absolutely appreciate you taking time out today. I know you have appointments, taking time out today to come on the podcast and share. Guys, you can find Iriel at her website, laurelholmes.com. That's
No, no, no,
LaurelHolmes.
no, no. Let me stop you.
Please.
Sorry, you got it
Mm.
wrong.
Oh,
Either I spelled it wrong or you said it wrong.
I'm probably spelling it wrong.
So Lori is my nickname.
Lori.
Iriel is my angelic name, and Laurel is the name my mom gave me when I was Ann Laurel. So that's the skinny on that. But my website is www.laurie HOLMES.com. The Laurel isn't right in there. It's
Yes.
just Lori.
It's Lori, and you're absolutely right. I was trying to do it from memory. Never do that. Okay,
Yeah,
never do that.
that doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
They'll never
Does not
find me.
work. And I also put it in the comments. So
Yeah, just put it
anyone,
down in the comments. That'll work good.
it's in the comments. Oh, note to
And I
self,
do
never
have
by
to
memory.
go. I've got 10 minutes to my next call.
Absolutely. So we are signing off. I thank each and every one of you. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell here on YouTube. We love you. We will see you next week right here on the Better Everyday podcast with Dethea. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
dear.
you.
Love
I
you.
will so much love you.